Welcome back to Double Your Vocabulary, the high-energy podcast where we turn your everyday English into a total superpower. I am Iris, joined by my best friend Ernesto and our silent partner Spodie the Schnauzer, who is currently dreaming about treats.
We are your friendly coaches here to help you navigate the tricky world of travel with confidence and ease. Today, we are diving deep into the essential phrases you need for dealing with a late flight.
We have put together 3 realistic practice samples that reflect exactly what happens when your travel plans start to slow down. These simulations will help you understand the natural flow of conversation at a busy airport terminal.
We will show you how to talk to gate agents, customer service representatives, and even other frustrated passengers. Let's jump into the practice samples.
Excuse me, I just noticed on the departure board that my flight to London has been pushed back by 3 hours. Can you clarify if the gate remains the same, or if we should expect a gate change?
I am sorry for the delay, but the gate is staying the same for now even though the plane is behind schedule. The incoming aircraft is actually still on the ground in Paris due to some very thick fog.
That is quite a long wait, and I am worried about making it to my hotel before the check-in desk closes. Is there any chance the boarding process might start earlier if the weather clears up fast?
It is unlikely since the plane is currently held up by air traffic control, but we will notify everyone immediately. Please stay close to the gate area and listen for any further announcements over the loudspeaker.
Hi, I am really concerned because this delay means I am definitely going to miss my connecting flight in Chicago. Is there any possible workaround or a different route you can find to get me there today?
Let me look into the system to see if I can rebook you on a later flight through a different city. Since this delay is the airline's responsibility, we want to make sure you get to your destination.
I appreciate that, and since I will be stuck here for the next 6 hours, do you provide any assistance for food? I noticed some other people mentioning a meal voucher for the restaurants in this terminal.
Yes, I can certainly issue a meal voucher for you right now to cover your lunch and a beverage. I am also printing your new boarding pass for the final leg of your journey, so you are all set.
It looks like our travel plans have completely gone sideways this afternoon, hasn't it? I was really looking forward to a quick trip, but now it seems we have to sit tight.
Tell me about it. I have been sitting here for 2 hours, and I am already running out of things to do. I just hope they don't cancel the flight entirely, because that would be a total nightmare.
I feel the same way, as I really don't want to spend the night sleeping on one of these uncomfortable chairs. At least the airport has decent Wi-Fi, so we can try to stay productive while we wait.
That is true, although I think I might go for a walk around the terminal just to stretch my legs. If you hear any news about the boarding process starting, could you let me know?
Those were some really intense situations, Ernesto, and they happen to travelers all the time. I think our listeners should really focus on that first phrase about the flight being pushed back.
Absolutely, saying a flight is pushed back is much more common in real-life English than saying it is delayed. It sounds very natural when you are talking to a gate agent or checking the departure board.
Exactly, and did you notice how the agent mentioned the incoming aircraft? This refers to the specific plane that is flying in from another city to pick you up for your trip.
That is a key term because often your delay isn't about your airport, but rather that the incoming aircraft is stuck elsewhere. We also use the phrase held up, which is a great phrasal verb to describe being stuck.
I love using held up because it applies to so many things, like being held up in traffic or at the office. In the second sample, we talked about a connecting flight, which is the middle stop on a long journey.
Missing a connection is stressful, so asking for a workaround is a very smart way to handle it. A workaround is simply an alternative plan or a creative solution to a difficult problem.
Then we have the word rebook, which is what the agent does when they change your ticket to a new flight. It is usually free if the airline is at fault, meaning the delay was their mistake.
And don't forget the meal voucher, which is basically a coupon that pays for your food while you wait. You should always ask for one if you're stuck in the terminal for more than a few hours.
In the third simulation, we use the idiom gone sideways, which I think is just perfect for this topic. It means that everything went wrong or didn't go according to the original plan.
It really captures that feeling of frustration when things fall apart, and your only choice is to sit tight. To sit tight means to stay where you are and wait patiently until the situation changes.
We also mentioned the leg of the journey, which is a specific portion of a trip that has multiple flights. If you are flying from Tokyo to New York with a stop in LA, the flight to LA is the first leg.
Finally, we talked about the terminal, which is the main building of the airport where you find the gates. Understanding the boarding process helps you know exactly when it is your turn to get on the plane.
Using these words makes you sound much more like a native speaker and helps the airport staff understand you better. It turns a chaotic situation into something you can actually control with your words.
I agree, and the more you practice these samples, the more natural they will feel when you are actually traveling. It is all about being prepared for those moments when things don't go perfectly.
We just covered a lot of ground in those simulations, but let's really peel back the layers on why we chose those specific words for the airport.
Right? Because in a high-stress environment like a busy terminal, you want phrases that are short, clear, and make you sound like you know the system inside out.
Starting with pushed back. In the first simulation, I asked if the flight was pushed back instead of just saying it was late or delayed.
That is such a pro move. When you say a flight is pushed back, you're talking about the schedule shifting. It sounds much more natural than using the heavy, academic word postponed.
It really does, and it works for so many things outside the airport too. Ernesto, if we were supposed to record this podcast at noon but I had a hair appointment, what would I say?
You would text me and say, "Hey Ernesto, can we push the recording back an hour?" It is the universal way to ask for more time without sounding like you are canceling.
Exactly, it is polite but casual. Now, let's look at held up. In the simulation, the agent said the plane was held up by air traffic control.
Held up is the perfect phrasal verb for when something external stops you from moving forward. It is not just that you are slow, something is literally holding you in place.
I use this every time I am late for a dinner date because of a long meeting. I will say, "Sorry, I am late, I got held up at the office."
It sounds way more professional than saying my boss wouldn't stop talking. It implies there was a situation beyond your control that required your attention.
Now, what about that word workaround? I used it when I realized I was going to miss my connection in Chicago and needed a new plan.
A workaround is a total power word. It tells the agent that you are looking for a creative solution, not just a standard refund or a shrug of the shoulders.
In the world of tech or business, a workaround is how you fix a problem when the main system fails. If the printer is broken, sending a PDF to a phone is a workaround.
It shows you are a problem solver. If you tell a customer service rep, "I need a workaround," they immediately start looking for those hidden flight paths through other cities.
Let's pivot to the idiom gone sideways. In our third simulation, we were talking as two frustrated passengers about how the afternoon had completely gone sideways.
I love this one because it is so visual. Imagine a car driving straight and then suddenly veering off the road to the side. That is your plan failing.
It is perfect for when one small mistake causes a chain reaction of disasters. Like if you are cooking a big Thanksgiving dinner and the oven breaks.
The whole dinner has gone sideways. It is a very expressive way to share your frustration with a friend or a colleague without being overly dramatic or using slang.
And when things go sideways, what is the best thing to do? Sit tight. We use this to describe waiting patiently at the gate for the next update.
Sit tight is much more comforting than just saying wait. It implies that you should stay where you are and be ready for action when the time comes.
I say this to my friends when I am looking for them in a crowded mall. Just sit tight by the fountain and I will find you in 5 minutes.
It means don't move, stay put, and stay calm. It is a great phrase to use with kids or even with coworkers when you are waiting for a final decision on a project.
Let's talk about the phrase behind schedule. We mentioned the plane was behind schedule, which is the slightly more professional cousin of the word late.
When you use behind schedule, you are referencing a specific timeline. It makes the situation feel more objective and less like a personal failure of the airline.
You can use this at work constantly. If a project is taking longer than expected, you tell your boss, "We are running a bit behind schedule on the report."
It sounds like you are managing the situation. It is much better than saying "I am not finished yet." It focuses on the timeline rather than the incompletion.
Now, let's get into the shades of meaning. In the first simulation, I asked the agent to clarify if the gate remained the same.
Using clarify is a very polite and sophisticated way to ask for more information. It is much softer than saying, "What do you mean?" or "I don't understand."
It assumes that there might be a misunderstanding on your part, even if the agent was the one being confusing. It keeps the conversation very smooth.
But if you are in a more relaxed situation, like talking to the person sitting next to you at the gate, you wouldn't use clarify. You would say, "Did you catch that?"
Exactly. Catch that is the relaxed version of understand or hear. Like, did you catch what the gate agent said about the vouchers?
It makes you sound like a local. Now, another interesting one is the phrase "at fault." In the second simulation, we discussed if the airline was responsible for the delay.
Saying the airline is at fault is the polite way of saying it is your mistake. It is direct and serious because it involves money and vouchers.
If you are in a car accident, the police will determine who is at fault. It is a legal sounding term that carries a lot of weight when you are negotiating for a hotel room.
But if you are just with friends and someone drops their phone, you wouldn't say who is at fault. You would say whose fault was that, or who did that.
The difference is subtle but important. At fault sounds like a professional judgment, while whose fault sounds like you are looking for someone to blame in a personal way.
Let's look at the phrase make sure. I used this when I said we want to make sure you get to your destination. It is a very common alternative to the word ensure.
Ensure is what you write in an email, but make sure is what you say out loud. It is active, it is friendly, and it shows you are taking responsibility.
I use it every day. Make sure you lock the door, or make sure you bring your umbrella. It is a gentle command that sounds very natural.
And it is much more relaxed than saying verify. You wouldn't tell your friend, "Please verify the door is locked." That would sound like a robot.
We also use the term leg of the journey. This is a very specific travel term, but it has a great shortcut for everyday life.
You can use leg to describe any part of a long process. If you are training for a marathon, you might talk about the last leg of your training plan.
Or if you are on a long road trip with multiple stops, you can say, "This next leg of the drive is going to be the most scenic one."
It breaks a big task into smaller, more manageable pieces. It is a very native way to organize your thoughts when talking about time or distance.
Finally, let's talk about the word rebook. It is a very specific verb, but it shows how we love to add the prefix re to words in English to mean do it again.
Rebook, reschedule, redo, rethink. In the airport, asking the agent, "Can you rebook me?" is the fastest way to get what you want.
It is much more efficient than saying, "Can you put me on another flight, because my first flight was canceled." One word does all the work for you.
That is the secret to sounding like a native speaker. It is not about using big words. It is about using the most efficient words for the situation.
Like using terminal instead of big airport building. It shows you know exactly where you are and how the airport is structured.
And saying boarding process instead of the time when people get on the plane. It sounds organized and respectful of the airline's rules.
These small shifts in your vocabulary don't just help you get better service. They also lower your stress because you feel more in control.
When you have the right words, you don't have to scramble or use hand gestures. You can just state your needs clearly and wait for the solution.
And even if things have gone sideways, you can still sit tight and handle it with grace using these phrases.
Exactly. Whether you are asking to clarify a gate change or looking for a workaround for a missed connection, you are speaking the language of travel.
Before we wrap this up, I want to put you on the spot, Ernesto. We have talked about all these great phrases, but now let's see them in action with some rapid-fire scenarios. I am going to give you a stressful airport situation, and I want you to give me the perfect response using our vocabulary from today.
I love a challenge. I am ready. Let's show everyone how these words actually come out of your mouth when the pressure is on. Give me the first scenario, Iris.
Scenario number 1. You are standing at the service desk. The person behind the counter is looking very stressed because a flight was canceled. Other passengers are starting to get loud and angry. You want to stay calm, but you really need to know if the airline is going to pay for your hotel tonight. What do you say?
Okay, in that case, I want to be direct but professional. I would say, "I understand the situation is difficult, but could you please clarify if the airline is considered at fault for this cancellation? I want to make sure I know the policy regarding hotel vouchers before I look for a workaround.
That is a triple play. You used clarify, at fault, and workaround all in 2 sentences. Why did you choose to start with clarify there instead of just asking about the money?
Because when people are angry, the staff gets defensive. By asking them to clarify, you are treating them like an expert who is helping you understand a complex system. It makes them want to help you more. Plus, using at fault signals that you know your rights without being aggressive.
Perfect. Scenario number 2. You are at the gate for your connecting flight. The departure time on the screen keeps changing every 10 minutes. You have a very important meeting tomorrow morning, and you are starting to worry. You see a gate agent who isn't busy. How do you approach them?
I would walk up and say, "Excuse me, I noticed the flight is running behind schedule and the departure time keeps getting pushed back. I have a critical meeting tomorrow, so I was wondering if we should start looking for a workaround now, or if I should just sit tight for another update."
I love the use of sit tight there. It shows you are willing to cooperate, but you are also thinking ahead. It gives the agent an opening to tell you the truth about the delay.
Exactly, it's about showing that you are a reasonable person. If you say behind schedule, it sounds like you are tracking the logic of the day, not just complaining that the plane isn't there yet.
Okay, last one for the rapid fire. This is a tough one. You finally get on the plane, you are in your seat, and then the pilot announces that there is a mechanical issue and everyone has to get off and go back to the terminal. You turn to the person sitting next to you. What is your reaction?
Oh man, that is the ultimate travel nightmare. I'd probably just shake my head and say, "Well, this afternoon has officially gone sideways. I guess we just have to head back to the terminal and sit tight until they find us a new plane."
Gone sideways is the perfect description for that. It builds an immediate bond with your fellow passenger because you are both experiencing the same chaos. It is much more natural than saying this is a bad situation.
It really is. It lightens the mood just a little bit because it is such a descriptive idiom. It acknowledges the mess without adding to the stress levels of the people around you.
Those were excellent examples, Ernesto. It really shows that having these phrases ready to go is like having a survival kit for your social interactions. You don't have to think about grammar when you're stressed. You just grab the right tool for the job.
That is exactly why we practice these. When your brain is tired from traveling, you want these phrases to be automatic. You want them to be part of your muscle memory.
Now, it is time for our favorite part of the show to bring everything together. Let's move into the drive-through recap. This is where we give you the top 3 high-value tips from today's episode so you can take them to go.
Tip number 1, precision over emotion. Instead of using generic words like late or bad, use specific terms like behind schedule or pushed back. These phrases describe the situation objectively. This helps you stay professional and usually gets you better results from customer service agents who are used to being blamed for things.
Tip number 2, the power of the workaround. When things go wrong, don't just wait for a solution to be handed to you. Use the word workaround to signal that you are a problem solver. It tells the person you are talking to that you are ready to explore creative options, like different routes or even different airports, to get to your final destination.
And tip number 3, use softeners to keep the conversation moving. Words like clarify and phrases like sit tight are your best friends. Clarify allows you to ask for information without sounding like you are accusing someone of being confusing. Sit tight shows that you are patient and prepared, which keeps the energy around you calm even when things have gone sideways.
Those 3 tips will completely change how you experience your next trip. You won't just be a passenger. You will be a savvy communicator who knows how to navigate the system.
And remember, these aren't just airport words. You can use pushed back for your meetings, behind schedule for your projects, and clarify in every single conversation you have at work or with friends.
That is the beauty of the English language. Once you master the logic of these phrasal verbs and idioms, you can apply them to almost any part of your life. It is all about building that foundation of natural, conversational flow.
I hope everyone listening feels a little more confident about their next big journey. Whether you are flying across the ocean or just commuting to work, these words are your passport to better communication.
Thank you for joining us today on this deep dive into travel English. We had a blast breaking these down for you.
It was a lot of fun. I can't wait to hear how our listeners use these phrases in the real world.
If you enjoyed this lesson, make sure to check out our other episodes of the Double Your Vocabulary podcast. We have a whole library of real-world simulations waiting for you.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new lesson. We are here every week to help you level up your English.
Safe travels, everyone, and we will see you in the next episode. Keep practicing and stay curious.
Bye for now.